everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Stephanie. I'm Stephanie, and I'm here today with my very good friend, Terri Ann Russell, and I'm so excited to dive into this conversation today. So, Terri Ann, can you give us a little introduction, what you do, what you're up to in the world?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here, and you look radiant. I'm really, truly very happy for you. So I'm Terri Ann Russell. I'm an advocate. I'm a minister. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I have plenty degrees under my belt, but really what I am is an intuitive empath. I've always been an intuitive empath, and I never really understood what that was until I started to delve into the work of healing. And so here I am today. It's taken me on this 54. I just turned 54. I'm 54, 5 and 4 is a 9, right? The year of completion. I've completed that cycle. And so I'm entering this new phase of who I've worked to become so far and where I am today. So I assume that some of those titles I have will also be changing.
I'm sure they will be. You know, we evolve, we adapt, and become better versions of ourselves as we get older, which is so beautiful. So happy birthday, by the way. That's
Thank
exciting.
you.
So we were talking about this concept of being an intuitive empath in today's world. And I think this is a timely conversation because so many people are waking up to their own intuition and like the noise in their head and like, wait, how do I know these things? What is it? How is this happening? You know, and I think it's important for us to really, as healers and light workers in the world, to help support the ones that are waking up and coming into their power and what they can do. So I'm so very delighted to bring this conversation to light. So tell me about your experience. We were talking about childhood sensitivities.
So yeah, as a child, I was very sensitive. I was always told I was too sensitive. I can remember back to, it's like watching a movie and everybody's saying it's not real. I understand it's not real. I have intellect, right? I understand it's not real, but I feel to a capacity that's hard for me to verbalize or put into words. And what I've learned from my spiritual path and my healing journey is that the more I've healed my ancestral, my generational lineage, the more sensitive I've become. And so it's very important for me as an intuitive empath to be aware of the things that I didn't know previously, like when I was a child, who I'd hang around with, or if it was somebody else's stuff that I was picking up on. I can even remember like my ex-husband, my first ex-husband said, like he would love to hunt and wanted me to go hunting, and I would not go hunting with him. And he's like, oh, it has to be done. There's reasons for this and population control and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's all fine and good, but I don't need to be the one doing it. And I don't need to be the one witnessing it. That's something that would break my heart if I had to witness that. So you go do what you want, but it's not going to be me. And so being a sensitive being is really difficult, especially as a child, right? Often we're told, at least my generation, I'm an Xer, proud to be an Xer. We were told to suck it up, right? You're too sensitive, suck it up. You're not going to survive in this world. Life is hard, life sucks, and then you die. Those are the sort of things that I was told. And growing up, I was like, okay, I am too sensitive. I didn't like that about myself, right?
Right.
So I went through many phases of trying to understand what that meant and how I would shift that in myself. And not until I began my spiritual journey, which was late in life, actually. It was after my daughter was born sick and I began Reiki, that I really began to understand this concept of what an intuitive empath meant.
Wow. Yeah, it's a big job to be an intuitive empath. It's like your entire existence is affected by it, right? It's not
Yeah.
just your mind and body, it's spirit, it's your relationships, it's everything, you know? So I think if we could, I'd love to give people an understanding of what exactly it is to be an intuitive empath. So what does your experience look like?
It's obviously shifted and changed as I've grown on my path and my healing journey. But really what it breaks down to is that you're an empath, and you're the intuitive part of it. Intuitive empath means you're able to feel others' feelings, but also discern now what it is that you need to offer them. Is it theirs that you're picking up on, or is it yours that you're picking up on? So the intuitive aspect is it that you're going to share with me something. And as an empath, I attract people that want to tell me their life story. So as the intuitive empath, I'm able to understand and decipher what it is that you need to hear in this moment so that you can take that information with you and now go forward on your journey. So it's a little bit different than a typical what an empath is. And as you fine tune what your intuitive abilities are, that sort of allows you to have that perception that's more precise about what it is that others are needing from you. So for me, when I work with clients, it's important for me to be an intuitive empath now, right?
Yeah.
I'm picking up on what it is that they need. So whether that's words, whether that's healing, whether that's information. There's just sometimes too a knowing that I get within me of the right words to say. They're not my words, honestly. That's the intuitive, that's my spiritual being giving me that information to then translate to you.
Beautiful. So I agree that we are headed towards a huge shift in our world. I know that we need these sensitivities, is something that you mentioned, that these are almost like part of our toolbox as light workers in the world to have these sensitivities. So how do you think that being an intuitive empath has benefited you as a healer in this world?
That's a good question. It's definitely benefited me. A lot of my clients are very emotional. So they come in and they really, again, like me, don't understand why they're so emotional. Why am I so emotional? Why does everything affect me so deeply? You know, as an intuitive empath, you can't even put it into physical words, 3D. I call them 3D words, what it feels like to be cut to the core of what that feeling is behind what it is, right? Because you're like, there really are no words for me to use about the deepness, the depth, the capacity that I'm feeling this too. If it's painful, and it cuts me to the core. If it's joyful, and it also brings me to a place of joy that I would not have experienced previously had not understanding it. So having that intuitive ability when I'm working with clients is really, I think, what's key. And the more I see more clients coming in with these sensitivities and they're not understanding, I think that's part of what my journey is here, is to teach others. I remember going back to like a spiritual retreat back when I first began my awakening, and it was finding your inner purpose, your inner truth. And I was told the word love, and I didn't understand. I was like, well, how am I supposed to teach love? Everybody knows what love is. Like, what kind of answer is that? But it goes back to self-love, right? Because I have to love every aspect of myself, the dark and the light. I am not one or the other. I'm both. I am a complex human being. So understanding that when you're working with clients is really key to helping them follow what their journey is, right?
Definitely. I'm also curious, how has this gift, we'll call it a gift, helped you in your personal life?
I call it a gift now. I write these beautiful letters to my daughter who's 13 now, and they're called Letters to My Daughter. And I always ask in there, I wonder if you'll view this gift as a gift or a curse. Because for many years, I did feel like it was a curse for me to
me
be so
too.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like, why are not other people around me like this? Why am I the only one? Why was I put into this family or this relationship? Oh, my ears ringing like crazy. Sorry. That spirit for sure. In relationships, I've found it's important for me to navigate each relationship differently. I'm married to my third husband. We've been together 10 years. Our relationship is a growth relationship. So with him, he's been able to hold that space that I've needed to grow into this person. And I've been the one to sort of help him come into what the spiritual aspect of himself is. So it's been a beautiful relationship. It's not been easy.
Sure. Yeah, growth
me.
never is, right?
No, it's not been easy, but it's a beautiful relationship. And I think because you're intuitive, and he's also intuitive, but so very shut off. So think about people that are intuitive, but they really don't understand what that means. And so he may get visions or knowings about things, but not really understand, like, oh, that thought just popped in. That wasn't anything. And I'm like, well, like, what were you doing at the time that thought popped in? There's nothing random about it. So he's been like my rock. And so I've been able to help him come out of what that is. And other relationships, like my children, I have, my oldest is 32. He's totally different than I am. Holds many different values, but very set in his ways about his values and his beliefs. I always share little nuggets, I say, of wisdom. It's like important. I cannot change him. I'm not here to change him. I'm here to like plant these seeds, if you will. Yeah. And then he is to take them and do what he wishes with them. He could throw those seeds out and never look at them again. Or he can say, oh, I remember when my mother said this to me. And I think around 32, 33, for me, that was the crucial part of where I came into this. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? The world is so much bigger. I think before that, we have a very limited concept of what life really is.
Definitely. Yep. You mentioned you got the same message that I did. Your purpose is love. And I'm like, really? I didn't know that about you, Terri Ann. So I was 24 at the time. I was sitting in meditation all by myself in my living room. And I just asked the question. And at that time, I had been meditating for about a year. And I started to come into my spiritual awakening really, really young. And I knew that I had a purpose. I didn't know what it was at the time. And I just asked. And I heard love. And I went on a whole journey about being a love warrior and loving myself and loving the world and loving everyone and loving animals and loving everything. And I had no idea what it meant either. But as I got older, I started to get a little bit more discernment about love. And what the truth was is it's unconditional love and standing for loving kindness in the world and being a catalyst for this change. That is what I'm here for. So I had to get more clarity around it first before I could really step into that. But I think that the message of self-love and being aware of your own gifts is probably one of our most important messages today about being an empath and being an intuitive and understanding that it's going to be a process. It's not going to be an overnight journey. You're going to have to go through your layers and understanding things and figuring out what discernment is. How do you do that? So maybe we can touch on a little bit about that. How do you develop discernment so that you can get a little bit stronger in your abilities?
Yeah. I just want to circle back to what you were saying. It's really true. If you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you. And think about the relationships you've been in, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were in a space where you didn't love yourself or accept yourself for who you were, you attract people who also not accept you.
Definitely.
So I just go back to that, and I'm like, it's so true. These sayings that we have, there's so much validity in them. So yeah. So going back to what you were saying, discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Discernment is also one of those lessons that we learn. I always say something like, fall 9 times, get up 9 times. It's a process. When I first began my spiritual path, I didn't know anything. Nobody taught me, right? So nobody taught me what discernment meant.
Mm-hmm.
And so for an intuitive empath, it's important for you to just be discerning about who you're around. Who do you spend the most of your time with? Are those people genuinely good people? Or are they sarcastic? Are they critical? Are they mean? And then taking that, right? Like, why are you hanging around people with that, like that? Understanding what, because people are like, oh, that person is just like that. And I'm like, no, you hang around with people like that. You have to be discerning because you're picking up as an intuitive empath, you pick up all of that. So even without knowing, you're also picking up on their issues, their generational stuff, right? Their trauma. You're bringing it all into your energy field, your physical body. And it's true, they bring down your energy. So I think the importance of discernment is not stressed enough. It's not taught. One of the first things I teach my clients is about discernment, because I didn't have that. I had to go through trial and error to figure that out, right? I didn't know about protection either. I remember one of the first times I was working in Sedona in a cute little boutique uptown, and I brought a spirit home that was not of the light. He wasn't evil, but he was more like a trickster type of being.
Mm-hmm.
Attached to me right away. And when I get energy like that, I get it attached in the back of my head. I start to get a headache. I can feel it almost like going in. And I didn't know this at the time, but I had brought him home. I was really tired. So they drain your energy, right? I'm really tired. Tell my husband, I'm really tired today. I'm going to bed early. I go to bed. I wake up during the night. He's tossing and turning, and I see this black shadow over my husband. But I was so tired, I went back to sleep. And the next day he says to me, somebody was here messing with me all night. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, I am so sorry that I brought something home. I felt it. I didn't know what it was, because again, nobody taught me what this was, right? Trial and error. I had to go through this process of seeing exactly what this was. And I was able to clear it then and release it. But think about it, how many times we're brought through these trials in our life. We're brought through the trials because we're meant to use our experience to teach others. Mm-hmm. We're meant to use that experience to give back. You said it earlier, with so many people awakening now to their abilities, it's scary because I had time to adjust to what my abilities were. I had time to sort of process, and it was a very slow process. These people that are waking up now, it's like overnight. Bing, bang, boom, it's here. I'm seeing visions. I'm hearing things. I think I'm losing my mind. People come into me all the time. You're going to think I'm crazy. This is what my clients say. You're going to think, first thing, you're going to think I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, there's probably nothing I haven't seen or heard that's going to make me think you're crazy. but they do feel like they are losing their mind because now previously they've not had this experience, and now they are.
Right. Yeah. That was the initial attraction between me and my new love, was the energy attraction. That and I think this is going to be a very much a growth relationship as well. So I understand those words to my core. The concepts of discernment for me, I learned a little bit about it from studying the yoga philosophies and Hindu philosophies, because they talked a lot about discernment in that realm of theosophy, if you will. And I understand that for, generations, there have been practitioners that have taught these concepts, but they haven't really been in the United States teaching people about the spiritual aspect of empathy and intuitive nature and this connection to spirit. So I want to give a little definition of what exactly we're talking about, because for someone who's never experienced discernment before, what exactly is it, right? So discernment would be what you were talking about with bringing someone home with you, that spirit home with you, being able to discern the difference between your energy and someone else's energy, your emotion and someone else's emotion, being able to see that this is not mine, that I am bringing something with me that's not mine, and I need to let it go or process it or do something with it, transmute it. What else can we say about this concept? Because I think that one of the most important things you can learn as an intuitive is discernment. So what else, what are the more subtleties about it?
So I always like to say, like say you're out with your friends or your partner and you're in a really good mood and you're out and about and there's a lot of people around you. Now, all of a sudden your demeanor changes and you're in a bad mood, or you're low vibe, or you're sad. Something has come into your field that's not yours. You just don't automatically shift from, oh, I'm happy-go-lucky to now I'm sad, right? There's something that's come into your field. So either you're around somebody and you're picking up on somebody's energy, or something has just come in, right? Because you don't even have to interact with it. I don't have to speak to anybody in the airport, but their energies or spirits they carry with them or whatever have tried to come into my field. So the importance of protection. I used to speak a lot about protection. Now more so I speak about my energy being the dominant energy, right? My energy is going to be the dominant energy in that room. I don't need to protect myself from you. I am going to make my energy the dominant energy here. I think that's about coming into your power, right? You're going to understand that my energy, so all this energy we don't see, right? And let's use the airport again, because the airport is full of many different personalities. I want my energy to be the dominant energy, which is love and peace and connection. Yes. So when I go into an airport or any place that's crowded, I ground my energy. I anchor my energy deeply within me and into the earth, because I am going to be the dominant energy here. So if you're going to try to come over at me, which does a lot of times happen with low vibe spirits, right? They want to go to the light.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to automatically, like a moth to a flame, they're going to be attracted to my light without me even understanding or knowing it. So discernment for me now means my energy is the dominant energy. You're going to feel my energy, which is love and peace and connection. And I think that's part of the process we're going through now, because love, peace, and connection is where we're going.
Absolutely.
We are all connected anyway. So what do we want to bring into this world, right? Love, peace, and connection, truth. Yeah, all of it. So for me, nowadays, discernment means that. But really pay attention to what that is you're feeling. If you're really in a good mood and now you've shifted to a bad mood, there's something that came into your field that's making you feel like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Can we talk a little bit about triggers? So, because that's the other way that you can shift energetically is when you're triggered. Triggered by what? Triggered by a conversation, a situation, an experience. How do you, what is the question that I'm looking for? How do you discern the triggers and know the difference between I'm triggered now and this is my stuff, and someone just pissed me off, or, I just got cut off on the freeway, like that. But why? Why is it a trigger for you? What is it that's coming up in you that's creating this energy? So maybe the specific question about discernment and triggers is, how do you recognize it? Because I think that when you can recognize a trigger, it's an opportunity to heal that trigger.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Triggers are meant to teach us, right? They're meant to, so that's the other aspect of it. I always ask, I put my hands on my heart, is this me? Is this for me to know? When my son passed away, I had triggers constantly, if I'd be out and about. And I knew that was me, that was for me, right? I had to work through what those triggers were bringing up in me. Or violence, right? I've been the victim of domestic violence. So for me, anytime I see somebody being yelled at, I mean, a prime example, we were just on vacation, my husband and I and our daughters, and this guy started yelling at his wife while she didn't answer her phone. It took everything in me, because I'll be honest with you, I still am part hood. I grew up in New York City. It took everything in me to be in that place where I am now. It's a trigger for me, honestly. So what is it about that triggered me, right? It's the disrespect. What do I need to work through further about that for myself? And it's always a call for us to go deeper in to what that is. We're healing layers as we go. It's not going to all be pulled off of us at once and you're like, hey, I'm healed now. That's not how it works.
I know when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, right.
There's these layers that come off, and then everything we think we're good for a while, and now we're being called to go into a deeper space. So I always put my hands on my heart and I ask, is this for me? But when you have an entity or an energy coming in and all of a sudden now you're tired, that's usually an attachment. And that's something to be very aware of, why we put up protection barriers, why we make our light the dominant energy, is because we don't want that attached to us. We don't want to be exhausted. If you're around people and they're emotionally exhausting you, they're just all like, oh, Stephanie, this is about my life. And I don't even ask about how you are. That's not for you. That's sucking your energy. And now I feel better because I've just unloaded everything onto you, and I could walk away and go, oh, life is good. There's another difference. Now, if you're talking to somebody and something is coming up in you about what they're saying, then that's more for you to tune in about what that is. Often it's something we see, something we hear. Those triggers can be big or they can be small, really depending on what you're working on. Honestly, I think it's just a process for our journey. It's like when you're going to school and you're doing your math work, right? We're going through and we're just learning it. And we're not going to get it right the first time. So it's just about really paying attention to what that is, who you're around. Am I burned out? Is my energy drained? Am I emotionally exhausted after spending time with you?
Right. Yeah. Something came up as you were talking about self-love. When you are on this journey, this intuitive empath journey, and you're awakening to these gifts, a lot of the things that have come up for me has been about self-love. It's been about recognizing deeper paths to self-love. And am I loving myself in this situation? Am I creating more love by doing this, taking this action? Or is it causing pain? So I'd love to talk a little bit about the ideas of self-love, and when you are triggered or when you are facing your next, like, okay, now I need to heal this thing. What do I do? So let's give them a little bit of guidance on, like, okay, now that you've recognized the trigger, now what?
Yeah. Also a process, right? Because not everybody wants to look at what that trigger means. Some people cannot go deep. It's too scary for them to go really deep into what that is. I attract people that like to go deep into what it is. But I have had a few clients where they just don't want to feel what that is. Right? I think part of that is, when you love yourself, let's go back to the whole beginning, right? Self-love truly is about, it's not just, going to the spa and getting a massage. It's not buying yourself flowers. Those are all great things. And I treat myself to those things also, which make me feel love. But that's not what self-love is. Self-love is more, I set boundaries with you. I know you are emotionally exhausting, especially if you're in my immediate family. And I know you're emotionally exhausting for me. I have to set boundaries, strict boundaries with you now. That's self-love. Self-love is, I'm fighting with my spouse and he's attacking me or saying things, and I'm saying back, all right, I'm not going to speak to you when you're in this space. If you'd like to talk about the issue now, that's something else. But if you're going to attack me and tell me what I'm doing wrong, that's not where I want to be. So all these acts of self-love are really about us being strong in what we deserve. It all goes back to what we feel we deserve.
Definitely. Self-respect.
And if you've been abused, if you've had any trauma, you don't feel that you're deserving of much.
Definitely. Oh my, that's a whole other can of worms we could dive into, but oh man. Well, do you have
talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about your clairs, because as you're becoming through this awakening and you're on your journey, as your clairs become more strengthened, you're going to start hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing more. And for the people that are waking up now, it's very, as I said earlier, it's very quick. So paying attention to how you intuit information is important. Like if I have a client and she's not clairvoyant, me asking her to see isn't going to work.
Right.
So if you are clairaudient and you hear more messages or thoughts come in, I can say to you, okay, Stephanie, if you're sitting there randomly in the grocery store and you're shopping now, and a thought comes in about, your grandmother who's passed, and then you're hearing her voice or smelling her perfume, that's a message. That's your intuitive abilities versus you just, being at the grocery store and thinking a random thought. But you hear it or smell it. So because that's your ability. We have many different clairs and not all of them are strong. My clairvoyance, I get very few visions. I've had vivid visions when I've had them, but that's not one of my strongest points, right? Yeah, so I know when my intuition comes in, it's usually not visual. So I think it's important for people to know, especially when you're discerning. I'm a feeler, so I'm clairsentient. I feel. So if I'm out in a crowd now and I'm discerning, about what's going on. I may feel that attachment come on to me, right? I may feel now that I'm sad. You may look at somebody. I've had these experiences where I've looked at somebody and I've heard what's happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be an ability that you would want to hone in, right? That's not, oh, you're just, where did I hear that? Or I'm just making that up in my head. Or the knowing, I think, is the hardest, because then the cognizant, we just have a knowing, we don't know why.
Right.
I think that's probably one of the hardest, because you just get this information now. I know something, but I have nothing to back it up. Like, I have, like, a prime example would be in high school. I had a knowing that we were going to get into a car accident on the way to a football game, and I didn't want to go, and I didn't want to go. My girlfriend is like, please, let's go. This boy is going to be there. I like him. I want to see him. And I'm like, okay. And we went and we got into this car accident. So this knowing was in me, but I didn't understand what that was at 15 years old.
Right.
And so when you understand more about what that is, you can see, okay, so this knowing is coming in. I'm not just, it's not random, right?
It's not random. Yeah. It again goes back to discernment. It's recognizing that this came from elsewhere. It wasn't just my ego having a conversation within me. It was something outside of me.
Right. Like, oh, you're going to get in a car accident. And it's like,
right. How do you tell the difference? It feels different.
mhm.
It,
if you're clairsentient, it feels different, right? Not everybody's clairsentient.
it feels like truth. It feels like undeniable truth. Like you argue with me and it's, damn it, it's true. Like, you know. Beautiful.
It's vivid. If you're clairvoyant, it's vivid. It's colorful. It's real. It's like as if you were there.
Yeah.
And hearing, clairaudience, when I hear, so sometimes I hear outside in my head, but other times I'll hear outside my body. If you hear the voice of God or the voice of source, I just had this conversation with my son when I saw him. If I've had an experience and I'm sitting in a mountain and I hear God, I am going to believe that was God with every piece of my being, because I've had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've not had that experience, so you may say that I'm crazy, but you may have had another experience when you meet somebody and you feel something within the depths of your soul. That's going to be your experience. And then now you're going to feel that. So you're going to understand that that's your truth.
Right.
So you see how different it is for people based on what our intuitive abilities are. Definitely.
I think it's also important to note that, you know, as I've stepped deeper and deeper into this intuitive empath journey, more and more gifts have availed themselves to me. It wasn't like it all showed up at once. It was first I had clairsentience. I felt energy. I could feel other people's energies. I could feel spirit energy. I could feel ghosts. I could feel things. But then later it was clairaudience. Then I had a little bit of clairvoyance, and then there was claircognizance. And it was like all of these things started to show up, but it was because I was taking steps in the direction of that spiritual awakening. And it was giving myself permission, I think, to understand that there was more to life than what we see. And it's okay, and it's safe. It's not scary. It's perfectly safe because there's love there. And that is why it's safe, because it is love.
Well, that's how you discern too, because it's all love, right?
Yeah.
I've also had the dark come in, because after my son died, I was suicidal. So I had the dark trying to invade. I had to discern what was light and what was dark, right? So I always say that you'll know the difference. You'll feel it, you'll hear it, you'll see it, you'll know it. God's source, whoever you want to say, will not tell you to do something horrible to yourself or other people for your gain.
Right.
They will dangle the carrot in front of you and tell you that everything will be perfect. You just do this and you can have whatever you want. That's the dark,
Mm-hmm.
right? God, love, source will never do that. So that's also a discerning way to understand what it is that you're feeling, seeing, knowing, or hearing.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Okay. Is there anything else that you can think of that we should talk about today?
I would just say, lastly, it's important to give yourself grace on this process. That's a self-love thing that I've learned, is to really give myself grace, because I am going to fall. I am going to, go down the road where I want to feel sorry for myself, or it sucks, or because we're human too. We're not just spiritual. We are human. Even though my spiritual is within me and it's guiding me, Terri Ann is having a human experience. So I think it's important to give yourself grace, not beat yourself up for what you didn't know back then, right?
Sure.
You can't hurt yourself for, oh, I should have known this, or I should have did that, because it's part of the process, I've found. And the harder the lessons, the bigger the growth. So yeah, it's important to give yourself grace too. That's what I'd like to end with.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so how can people reach you, Terri Ann?
So I have a website. It's https // terriannrussell.as.me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Sassy Soul Healing. And that's how they can reach me. My books, I have 2 books out. The first one is with my son Anthony in spirit, and the second one is about Mother Mary, and that's a transformational book, a workbook for you to take you through the process of unlayering what some of that stuff was that's held you back, and that's on Amazon.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think totally relevant to our conversation too. So that's
Absolutely.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for channeling Mother Mary for that book. That is very important. Very, very important.
It was a process. It was a deep process for me to go, and it took me about a year to channel and write, and then it took me another year to go through that transformational phase afterwards. Wow. So it is very deep, but I find what I've been finding with people who have reached out to me that have started the book is that you get exactly what you need.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Such a wonderful, important conversation. I love it. Okay. Have a beautiful day, ladies, gentlemen, whoever's listening. Thank you.
Thank you.